On March 9th, 2022, President Biden signed Executive Order 14067. But you saw it coming because you're watching this video, because you read Executive Order 14067, because you understand that monetary transitions happen in stages, because you know that temporary measures become permanent, because you learned from 1933 and 1971 that when the government says, trust us, the correct response is prepare yourself. 51 pages of bureaucratic language about digital assets and financial innovation. The kind of document that gets filed away and forgotten, except this wasn't just another regulatory update. This was the legal framework for eliminating cash, and the clock is already running. The executive order has a deceptively boring title, Ensuring Responsible Development of Digital Assets. It sounds like crypto regulation. It sounds like the government finally catching up to Bitcoin. But buried in Section 4, subsection C, is a directive that should make your blood run cold. The Secretary of the Treasury, in consultation with the Federal Reserve, is ordered to produce a legislative proposal for a United States central bank digital currency. Not to study whether it's a good idea, not to explore the possibilities, to produce the legislative framework. The decision has already been made. The order is to execute. Now, here's what makes this different from every other government proposal you've ever seen. This executive order has teeth. It coordinates 9 separate federal agencies: the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Office of the Comptroller, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the Department of Justice, and the Department of Homeland Security. 9 agencies. One directive: build the infrastructure for a digital dollar and do it fast. The timeline in the executive order is aggressive: 180 days for initial reports, 1 year for technical infrastructure recommendations, 18 months for interagency coordination, 2 years for pilot programs. These aren't the timelines of a speculative research project. These are the timelines of a deployment operation. And if you understand how government actually works, you know what this means. When an executive order coordinates 9 agencies with hard deadlines, the work was already started before the order was signed. The order isn't the beginning, it's the authorization to reveal what's already been built. Let me tell you why this matters more than any economic policy in the last 50 years. Because this isn't about inflation. This isn't about interest rates. This isn't about tax policy or government spending. This is about the fundamental nature of money itself. And once you understand what's actually being built, you'll realize that cash isn't being replaced for efficiency. It's being eliminated for control, total control, automated control, irreversible control. But before we get to what's coming, you need to understand what's already happened. Because Executive Order 14067 isn't the first time a president has fundamentally altered the American monetary system with the stroke of a pen. It's happened twice before, and both times the people who didn't see it coming lost everything. The people who understood what was happening had a chance to protect themselves. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and right now it's rhyming so loudly you can't ignore it. April 5th, 1933, Executive Order 6102. President Franklin Roosevelt made it illegal for American citizens to own gold, not to hoard excessive amounts, not to use it for certain purposes, to own it at all. The order was simple. You have until May 1st to turn in your gold coins, gold bars, and gold certificates to any Federal Reserve Bank. You will receive $20.67 per ounce. If you fail to comply, you face 10 years in federal prison and a fine of $10,000, equivalent to $220,000 today. for the crime of keeping your own property. The justification was the Great Depression. The banking system was collapsing. People were hoarding gold instead of spending money. The economy needed liquidity. This was a temporary emergency measure to stabilize the financial system. Trust the government, turn in your gold. We're all in this together. Most people complied because most people believed the crisis was real and the solution was necessary. And technically, they were right about the crisis, but they were catastrophically wrong about the solution being temporary. Here's the part they don't teach in schools. After confiscating gold at $20.67 per ounce, the government immediately revalued it to $35 per ounce. That's a 69% overnight increase. The government forced you to sell at the low price, then repriced it at the high price, and the windfall went straight to the Treasury. That's not monetary policy, that's wealth confiscation with legal cover. And it worked because the infrastructure of enforcement already existed. Banking records, transaction logs, safe deposit box registrations. They knew who had gold because the system was already tracking it. The ban lasted 41 years, 4 decades, where American citizens were prohibited from owning the only form of money that had held value for 5,000 years. And when the ban was finally lifted in 1974, gold immediately shot up to $180 per ounce, then $800 by 1980. The people who were forced to sell at $20 watched from the sidelines as the wealth they surrendered multiplied 40 times over. That's the cost of compliance during a monetary transition. You don't just lose what you had, you lose what it could have become. Fast forward to August 15th, 1971. Executive action again. Not an executive order this time, but a unilateral presidential decision. Richard Nixon closes the gold window. For decades, foreign governments could exchange dollars for gold at a fixed rate, $35 per ounce. This was the foundation of the Bretton Woods system. The dollar was backed by gold, and every other currency was pegged to the dollar. It was the framework of global monetary stability, and Nixon ended it with a televised announcement on a Sunday night. The justification was a run on gold. Foreign governments, especially France, were demanding gold in exchange for the dollars they'd accumulated. The treasury was running out. The Vietnam War was expensive. Social programs were expensive. The government was printing more dollars than it had gold to back them. Something had to give. So Nixon suspended gold convertibility. Temporarily, he said, just 90 days to stabilize the system. 54 years later, the suspension is still in effect. The temporary measure became permanent. The dollar became pure fiat, paper backed by nothing but a promise and a military. What happened next was predictable if you understood the mechanics of money. Without the anchor of gold, the money supply exploded. Inflation ravaged the 1970s. Oil shocks, stagflation, interest rates hitting 20%. The purchasing power of the dollar collapsed. A house that cost $25,000 in 1971 costs $600,000 today. Not because houses got better, because dollars got worse. An entire generation's savings were quietly confiscated through inflation. No executive order needed, just the natural consequence of unlimited money printing. So now we're here, 2025. Executive Order 14067. And if you understand the pattern, you know exactly what's coming. Another monetary transition, another crisis as justification, another temporary emergency measure that becomes permanent, another wave of wealth confiscation disguised as stabilization. The only question is timing, and the answer is hidden in plain sight. The executive order doesn't just call for research into a digital dollar, it explicitly prioritizes development of a CBDC that preserves, quote, United States global financial leadership. That's not the language of a study. That's the language of competition. Competition with what? With China. because China launched their digital yuan in 20. It's fully operational and it's spreading. The digital yuan is being used in cross-border trade with Russia, with Saudi Arabia, with Brazil. Countries are testing alternatives to the dollar denominated system, and the United States is watching its monetary hegemony slip away. This is the crisis that will justify the transition, not a banking collapse, not a recession, the loss of reserve currency status, the end of the petrodollar, the rise of alternative settlement systems that bypass SWIFT and the Federal Reserve. The crisis is geopolitical, and the solution, they'll say, is a digital dollar that's faster, more efficient, more competitive than physical cash. A digital dollar that can be used for instant international settlements. A digital dollar that can be programmed for specific use cases. A digital dollar that every American will be required to adopt for national security. But here's what they won't say. A digital dollar means the end of financial privacy. Every transaction monitored, every purchase recorded, every transfer logged in a permanent database. No more cash transactions, no more anonymous commerce, no more ability to transact outside the surveillance grid. And once cash is gone, once the only money that exists is digital money, controlled by the Federal Reserve, the programmability features get turned on. Let me be specific about what programmability actually means in practice, because this isn't theoretical. This is already operational in other countries. China's digital yuan has built-in expiration dates. The government can inject stimulus directly into your digital wallet, but it expires in 90 days. Use it or lose it. No saving, no investment. Just forced consumption. This is how you manipulate velocity of money, not through interest rates, through code. The digital yuan also has geographic restrictions. Your money works in Beijing but not in Hong Kong, works in Shanghai but not in Xinjiang. Why? Because money is now a tool of social control. If you're in a region where there's unrest, your money gets geo-fenced. You can't buy a train ticket out. You can't book a hotel. You can't transfer funds to family in another province. You're economically trapped without a single soldier deployed, just code executing policy. The digital yuan integrates with the social credit system. Low score, you can't buy luxury goods, can't book flights, can't enroll your kids in private schools. Your money becomes color-coded. Red money has full privileges. Yellow money has restrictions. Green money is for basic necessities only. It's a caste system enforced through monetary architecture, and it works. Because when the alternative is having no access to money at all, people comply. Now, ask yourself this. If the United States implements a CBDC, do you really think it won't have similar features? Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the first version, but the capability will be there, built into the architecture, waiting for the right crisis to activate it. A pandemic, a climate emergency, a war, a domestic terrorism threat. Whatever justification is needed, it will appear. And when it does, the features will be turned on. For your safety, for the greater good, for national security, the infrastructure is already being built. You just haven't noticed it yet. In July 23, the Federal Reserve launched FedNow. It's a real-time payment system, instant settlements between banks. The official narrative is that it's competing with private payment apps like Venmo, making banking faster and more efficient. But look at the technical architecture. Fed now connects every financial institution in America to a single centralized clearing network. Every transaction flows through Federal Reserve infrastructure. Every bank becomes a node in a centralized system. This isn't just a payment rail. It's the foundation for a CBDC. The plumbing is installed. They're just waiting to turn on the water. And it's not just domestic infrastructure. In 2024, the Federal Reserve joined Project Imbridge. It's a cross-border CBDC platform developed by the Bank for International Settlements, China, Thailand, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and now the United States, testing instant cross-border settlements using central bank digital currencies. No more correspondent banking, no more SWIFT, just direct central bank to central bank transfers. This is the replacement for the dollar as global reserve currency, and it's not coming. It's here. They're just testing it before the public rollout. So let's talk about the timeline. When does cash actually become illegal? Not in the sense of a law that says cash is banned effective immediately. That would cause panic. That would cause resistance. The elimination of cash happens in stages, gradual stages that most people won't notice until it's too late. We're currently in stage 3. Let me walk you through all 6 stages so you understand what's coming and what you can still do about it. Stage 1 was normalization. This is where digital payments become the default. Credit cards, debit cards, payment apps, online banking. This stage started decades ago and is essentially complete. Most transactions in the developed world are already digital. Cash is the exception, not the rule. This wasn't forced, it was voluntary, because digital is more convenient, and convenience is the hook. Stage 2 was infrastructure. This is where the centralized systems get built. FedNow, real-time clearing networks, digital identity systems, biometric verification, surveillance integration. This stage has been underway since 2020 and is now mostly complete. The technical foundation for a fully digital monetary system exists. It's operational, it's just not mandatory yet. Stage 3 is incentivization. This is where using digital money becomes rewarded and using cash becomes penalized. We're in this stage right now. You see it everywhere. Businesses offering discounts for card payments, cashless stores, ATM fees, banks charging fees for cash deposits, limits on cash withdrawals. It's still legal to use cash. It's just increasingly expensive and inconvenient. This is friction, and friction guides behavior. Stage 4 is marginalization. This is where cash becomes suspicious. Large cash transactions trigger reports. Depositing cash requires justification. Carrying significant cash makes you subject to civil asset forfeiture. Privacy becomes criminalized. If you're using cash, the assumption is you're hiding something, evading taxes, buying drugs, funding terrorism. The narrative shifts. Cash isn't neutral anymore. Cash is for criminals. We're entering stage 4 now in 2025. The rhetoric is already changing. Stage 5 is the announcement. This is where the government declares a sunset date for physical currency. You have 18 months, maybe 2 years. Exchange your cash for digital dollars. After the deadline, old currency is no longer legal tender. Merchants won't accept it. Banks won't redeem it. It becomes worthless paper. This is the forced migration. And just like in 1933, most people will comply because the alternative is losing everything. This stage hasn't happened yet, but the executive order authorizes it. The infrastructure supports it, and the justification is being prepared. Stage 6 is full implementation. This is where cash is completely eliminated and the programmability features get activated. Your digital wallet becomes your only access to the economy, and that access comes with conditions: spend limits, category restrictions, geographic boundaries, social credit integration, expiration dates, negative interest rates, whatever policy goals the government wants to achieve, they can now enforce through monetary code. No legislation needed, no debate required, just a software update. This is the end game, and once it's active, there's no going back, because you can't opt out of the only monetary system that exists. Here's what keeps me up at night. The transition from stage 4 to stage 5 requires a trigger event, a crisis big enough to justify emergency measures. And crises have a habit of appearing exactly when the infrastructure is ready. September 11th happened right when the surveillance infrastructure needed public justification. The 2008 financial crisis happened right when the Fed needed authorization for unlimited quantitative easing. COVID-19 happened right when governments needed justification for digital health passports and unprecedented monetary expansion. I'm not saying these events were manufactured. I'm saying they were used to implement agendas that were already prepared and waiting for the right moment. Executive Order 14067 was signed in March 2022. The infrastructure has been in development for 3 years. The coordination between agencies is complete. The pilot programs are running. The international partnerships are established. The legal framework is ready. All that's missing is the crisis. And when that crisis arrives, whether it's a cyber attack on the banking system, a collapse of commercial real estate, a sovereign debt crisis, or something else entirely, the response will be immediate. Emergency powers, executive authority, implementation of the digital dollar system that's already built, and the elimination of cash as a temporary measure to stabilize the system. Temporary, just like 1933, just like 1971. So what do? You can't stop this. Executive Order 14067 is already signed. The federal agencies are already coordinating. The infrastructure is already built. The timeline is already running. Individual resistance is futile, but individual preparation is possible, and the window to prepare is still open. Barely, but it's open. First, understand that time is the most valuable asset you have right now. Not money, time. Because every month that passes, more infrastructure comes online, more restrictions get normalized, more alternatives get regulated, more escape routes get closed. The actions you can take in 25 will not be available in 20, and the actions you can take in 2027 will not be available in 29. The window is closing. Move while you can. Second, hold physical cash, not as your primary wealth storage. Cash is still inflating, still losing purchasing power, but as a tactical buffer. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in physical currency stored securely. Because when the announcement comes, there will be a rush to convert. ATMs will be empty, bank lines will be hours long, and limits will be imposed immediately. Having cash on hand gives you flexibility during the transition. Time to think, time to act, time that others won't have. Third, diversify into hard assets. Physical gold, silver, assets that have held value for millennia and cannot be programmed or deleted. Don't buy paper gold, don't buy gold ETFs. Those are just claims on gold held by institutions. Buy physical metal, take delivery, store it yourself, because when digital currency becomes mandatory, hard assets become the only form of wealth that exists outside the system. Fourth, understand cryptocurrency differently than you did before. Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to the banking system, decentralized, permissionless, censorship resistant. But as regulations tighten, as exchanges implement know your customer requirements, as governments demand transaction reporting, Bitcoin becomes just another monitored account. The real value is in privacy-focused cryptocurrencies. Monero, Zcash, coins designed specifically to resist surveillance. These will be the first to be banned, which tells you they're the most threatening to the control system and therefore the most valuable for preserving financial sovereignty. Fifth, build networks outside the digital system. Relationships based on trust, not transactions. Communities based on mutual aid, not monetary exchange. Skills that provide value without requiring permission from the payment system. Because in a world where money is programmable, the people who can create value through barter, through service, through direct exchange, will have leverage that people dependent on digital dollars won't have. This sounds extreme, but every society that has experienced monetary collapse has rediscovered the value of non-monetary exchange. It's not primitive, it's resilient. Sixth, and this is the hardest one, accept that the comfortable world is ending. The world where you could earn money, save money, and spend money without anyone tracking your every transaction. The world where financial privacy was a right, not a crime. The world where cash worked anywhere, anytime, no questions asked. That world is being systematically dismantled. And no election will stop it. No protest will reverse it. No petition will change it. Because this isn't a political decision. This is a systems architecture decision. And the architecture is already deployed. Executive Order 14067 is not a warning. It's an execution order. The decision to eliminate cash has been made. The infrastructure to replace it has been built. The timeline for transition has been set. The only variable is the trigger event. And trigger events are never far away. They appear exactly when needed. Because when you have the solution prepared, finding a problem to justify it is easy. The day cash becomes illegal won't look like you think. There won't be jackbooted thugs kicking in doors to confiscate your wallet. There will be a press conference, a serious-faced official explaining that due to unprecedented circumstances, emergency measures are necessary. The digital dollar system that has been in development is now ready for deployment. All citizens will have 18 months to exchange physical currency. After the deadline, old currency will no longer be accepted. This is for your safety, for financial stability, for national security. Please comply. And most people will, because most people always do. They'll download the app, they'll scan their ID, they'll link their biometrics, they'll convert their cash, and they'll wake up one day in a system where every financial decision they make is monitored, approved, and potentially restricted by algorithms they can't see and policies they never voted for. And they'll wonder how it happened so fast, how they didn't see it coming. But you saw it coming because you're watching this video, because you read Executive Order 14067, because you understand that monetary transitions happen in stages, because you know that temporary measures become permanent, because you learned from 1933 and 1971 that when the government says trust us, the correct response is prepare yourself. The clock is running. The infrastructure is live. The order has been executed. All that's left is the announcement, and the announcement is coming sooner than you think. Now let's talk about the mechanics of how this actually gets enforced, because understanding the enforcement mechanism is critical to understanding why resistance will be nearly impossible once stage 5 begins. This isn't like prohibition where you could set up a speakeasy in your basement and the government couldn't monitor every transaction. This is digital, this is automated, this is algorithmic enforcement that never sleeps, never takes bribes, and never looks the other way. The enforcement happens at 3 levels. The first level is merchant compliance. When the government announces the sunset date for physical currency, they don't just tell citizens to convert their cash. They simultaneously mandate that all businesses must stop accepting cash by a specific date. Any merchant who continues to accept cash after the deadline faces severe penalties. License revocation, massive fines, criminal charges for money laundering, and Here's the genius of it. They don't need to monitor every business. They just need to monitor the banks. Because here's how it works. Let's say you're a small business owner. You decide you're going to keep accepting cash even after it's illegal. You take cash from customers. But what do you do with that cash? You can't deposit it in your bank account. That triggers immediate red flags. The bank reports you. So you try to spend it. But where other businesses aren't accepting it either. They're compliant. So you're stuck with paper that has no value. You can't use it. You can't deposit it. You can't convert it. It's just dead weight. The enforcement doesn't require agents searching your store. It requires making cash economically useless. Um, the second level of enforcement is peer pressure. This is psychological warfare disguised as social responsibility. The government launches a campaign: turn in your cash, be a good citizen, help stop money laundering, help fight terrorism, help combat tax evasion, and they incentivize snitching. Report anyone still using cash and receive a reward, a percentage of any illegal cash seized. Suddenly, your neighbors become informants, your employees become liabilities, your customers become risks. The social fabric becomes the enforcement mechanism. This happened in India during their 2016 demonetization. People reported their own family members for hoarding old currency. The reward was cash and social credit. The third level is technology. This is the most insidious because it's invisible. Digital payment systems have built-in tracking, but they also have built-in denial capabilities. Let's say you try to make a transaction that the algorithm flags as suspicious. Maybe you're buying too much of something, maybe you're in the wrong location, maybe your social credit score is too low. The transaction simply doesn't process. No human intervention, no explanation, just a declined message. And when you call customer service, they can't help you. They don't control the algorithm. They don't even understand why it declined. You're trapped in a system with no accountability and no appeal process. But here's where it gets darker. The technology can also create financial traps that are impossible to escape. Let me give you a scenario. You converted most of your cash to digital dollars as required, but you kept some cash hidden just in case. A few $1,000s in physical bills, insurance against the system. 6 months after the deadline, the government announces a enhanced penalty phase. Any cash found after this date is not just confiscated. The person holding it is fined 10 times the amount. If you're caught with 5,000 in cash, you owe 50,000 in fines, and if you can't pay, your digital wallet gets frozen until you do. Now you're stuck. You have cash you can't use and can't turn in, and a digital wallet that could be frozen at any moment if you're caught. So you try to get rid of the cash, you try to gift it to someone, but who would accept it? They face the same risk. You try to burn it, but destroying currency is also a federal crime. You try to bury it, but it's still worthless paper. There's no winning move. The trap has closed. And thousands of people are caught in this exact situation, each one isolated and terrified, unable to organize or resist because any communication about it could be monitored and used as evidence. This is why the timeline matters so much. Right now, in late 2025, we're in the narrow window between awareness and enforcement. The people who understand what's coming can still take action, can still convert wealth into non-digital forms, can still build networks, can still establish alternatives. But once stage 5 begins, once the announcement is made and the deadline is set, the options collapse. Speed becomes the weapon used against you. You have months to make decisions that will affect your financial life for decades, and the chaos of the transition prevents organized resistance. Let's look at historical examples of how quickly these transitions actually happen. Venezuela provides the most recent case study. In 2017, Venezuela announced the Petro, a government-backed cryptocurrency. It was supposed to be voluntary, an alternative to the collapsing bolivar. But within 6 months, the government mandated that all oil sales had to be conducted in petros. Within a year, government salaries were being paid in petros. Within 18 months, the bolivar was essentially dead. The transition from voluntary to mandatory happened so fast that most Venezuelans couldn't react. Their savings evaporated, their cash became worthless, and the government gained total control over every transaction. India's demonetization in 2016 was even faster. On November 8th at 8 p.m., Prime Minister Modi announced that the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, representing 86% of cash in circulation, would be invalid starting at midnight. 4 hours. That's how much warning people got. 4 hours to spend or deposit currency that represented the majority of their life savings. The banks couldn't handle the volume. ATMs ran dry in hours. People waited in lines for days. Riots broke out. People died from the stress. And the government achieved exactly what it wanted: a forced migration to digital payments and a massive expansion of financial surveillance. Greece did it differently, but with the same result. During the 2015 debt crisis, the government didn't ban cash. They just made it nearly impossible to access. ATM withdrawal limits of 60 euros per day, bank transfers blocked, capital controls preventing money from leaving the country. Your money was still technically yours, you just couldn't use it. And when the crisis finally eased, the controls didn't fully lift, they just became the new normal. Lower limits, more restrictions, more monitoring. The temporary emergency became permanent infrastructure. These aren't isolated incidents. These are test cases, experiments in monetary control that teach central banks around the world what works and what doesn't. What level of speed prevents organized resistance? What level of restrictions the public will tolerate? What narratives justify the most invasive measures? Um, the global banking system is learning from each of these experiments, and Executive Order 14067 incorporates those lessons. Here's a detail most people miss. The executive order doesn't just authorize development of a U.S. digital currency. It explicitly calls for coordination with international partners to ensure interoperability. That means the digital dollar being designed isn't just for domestic use. It's designed to integrate with digital currencies being developed by other nations. The European digital euro, the digital yuan, the digital pound. These aren't competing systems, they're modules of a global financial control grid, and the interoperability means that restrictions in one country can be enforced in another. You can't escape to a different jurisdiction because all jurisdictions are running the same underlying protocol. This is the real purpose of Project Enbridge and similar international CBDC initiatives. They're not about making international payments faster. They're about creating a unified system where financial restrictions can be enforced globally. Imagine you're flagged for some violation. Maybe you donated to the wrong political cause. Maybe you traveled to the wrong country. Maybe your social credit score dropped below a threshold. In the current system, you could potentially move money offshore, open accounts in other countries, use international banks to preserve some financial freedom. But in an interoperable CBDC system, the flag follows you. Every country's central bank sees it. Every transaction gets scrutinized. There's no haven, no escape. The control is planetary. And before you think this is conspiracy theory, understand that this is openly discussed in central banking publications. The Bank for International Settlements published a paper in 2021 titled Central Bank Digital Currencies, Financial Stability Implications. In it, they explicitly discuss how CBDCs enable targeted policy interventions at the individual level, not at the market level, not at the sector level, the individual level. They're telling you exactly what this is for, individual financial control. They're just using sanitized language so people don't panic. Now let's talk about something that should absolutely terrify you. Negative interest rates on digital currency. This is impossible with physical cash. If the bank charges you negative interest on your savings, you can withdraw cash and hold it. It doesn't lose value sitting in your safe. But with digital currency, there is no withdrawal option. Your money exists only in the system. And if the system decides your money should decay at 2% per month to force spending, there's nothing you can do. Your savings automatically decrease, not from inflation, from program debasement. This is theft by algorithm, and it's already been proposed by multiple central banks as a tool to stimulate spending during recessions. The European Central Bank has openly discussed negative interest rates on digital euro deposits. The idea is simple: economic recession, people saving too much, force them to spend by making saving expensive. Your 1,000 digital euros becomes 980 next month, then 960, then 940. Use it or lose it. This completely destroys the concept of saving, of building wealth over time, of having a financial buffer for emergencies. You become a perpetual consumer, unable to accumulate, unable to exit the system, trapped in a cycle of forced spending determined by monetary policy you have no voice in. Some economists will tell you this is a feature, not a bug, that the ability to implement negative interest rates will make recessions shorter, make economic downturns less severe. And they might be technically correct, but they're ignoring the fundamental violation of property rights this represents. Your money is no longer your property. It's a liability that can be manipulated by central planners. You don't own digital dollars. You're granted temporary access to them, and that access comes with conditions that can change at any moment. Here's the question you need to ask yourself. If this system is so beneficial, why does it require the elimination of cash? Why can't digital currency and physical currency coexist? The answer is obvious, because as long as cash exists, people have an exit. They can withdraw from the system. They can transact privately. They can save without decay. They can preserve wealth outside algorithmic control. Cash is the escape hatch, and escape hatches undermine control. So the escape hatch must be eliminated, not for your benefit, for the system's benefit. The propaganda around this is already being deployed. You'll hear that cash is dirty, that it spreads disease, that it's used by criminals, that eliminating it will reduce crime. All of these claims have some truth, but they ignore the fundamental trade-off. Yes, cash can be used for crime. It can also be used for freedom. Yes, cash is less efficient than digital payments. It's also less controllable. The question isn't whether digital payments have benefits. The question is whether those benefits are worth surrendering every financial freedom you've ever had. And here's what the proponents never address. Crime doesn't disappear when cash disappears. It just changes form. Identity theft becomes more valuable. Hacking becomes more profitable. Corruption moves to cryptocurrency and barter. But the law-abiding citizens who simply want privacy lose everything. The system punishes the innocent to inconvenience the guilty. That's not justice. That's collective punishment disguised as progress. So we return to the central question. What do you actually do? You've heard the warnings. You understand the timeline. You know the stages. But what are the concrete actions you can take right now, today, that actually make a difference? Because awareness without action is just anxiety. You need a strategy. Action 1. Document everything. Right now, create a comprehensive record of all your assets, all your accounts, all your holdings, physical documentation, paper records. Because when the digital system takes over, the history might be rewritten, balances might be adjusted, claims might be disputed. Having proof of what you owned before the transition gives you leverage. Photograph your account statements. Print your transaction records, store them securely offline. This sounds paranoid until you need it, and then it's too late to create it. Action 2. Decentralize your banking relationships. Don't keep all your money in one institution. Multiple banks, credit unions, even foreign accounts if you can legally establish them. Because if one institution freezes your access, you have backup options. This isn't about hiding money. This is about not having a single point of failure. Diversification isn't just for investments, it's for infrastructure. Action 3. Acquire practical skills that have value outside the monetary system. Learn to fix things, learn to grow food, learn to provide services that people need regardless of what currency system exists. Because in every monetary collapse throughout history, the people who survived best were those who could create value directly. Not through credentials, not through job titles, through actual useful skills. This isn't about becoming a prepper. This is about building resilience that doesn't depend on a functioning financial system. Action 4. Build trusted networks. Relationships with people who understand what's happening, who are taking similar precautions, who can support each other when the system restricts access, not through formal organizations that can be monitored, through genuine human relationships based on mutual values and mutual aid. Because when algorithmic systems fail or restrict access, human networks become invaluable. This is how communities have survived every authoritarian system in history. Action 5. Stay informed, but stay quiet. Understanding what's happening is crucial. Broadcasting your understanding makes you a target. There's no benefit to advertising that you're preparing for monetary transition, that you're holding assets outside the system, that you understand the control mechanisms being deployed. Keep your preparations private. Share information carefully. Build security through obscurity. The nail that sticks up gets hammered down. Don't stick up. The elimination of cash is not a distant future scenario. It's a current operation with a timeline and an execution plan. Executive Order 14067 is that plan. The infrastructure is deployed, the coordination is complete, the only variable is timing. And timing depends on crisis, and crisis is never far away. When the announcement comes, remember this video. Remember that you were warned. Remember that the choice to prepare was available. And remember that the people who didn't prepare, who didn't take it seriously, who thought it could never happen here, will have no options left. They'll comply because compliance will be the only choice. But you'll have built alternatives, built resilience, built options that most people surrendered without even realizing they had them. The day cash becomes illegal is coming, not as speculation, as execution of an authorized plan. The question is not if, the question is when, and whether you'll be ready. The executive order has been signed, the countdown has begun, and it's sooner than you think.